Hello, Transport Evolved, or good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as Nikki would say. Unfortunately, Nikki is not here today, so you're stuck with me. This was meant to be our catch-up kind of event. Nikki has been in the US this week. If you've been following our site, you would have seen that Nikki's been in the US this week. She's been at a conference which has been organized by the US Department for Energy and the US Department for Transport. And she's on her way back to the UK, so she's actually checking into an airport as we speak. And the plan was, once she got checked in, to find some Wi-Fi and call. Didn't seem to have happened, and I haven't heard from her for a while, so I've taken the executive position. She made me editor-in-chief this week, so it's her fault, not mine, to go ahead and do basically a quick show. And I'm hoping this is going live at the moment. I'm just going to click play in another window just to check, because this is all a bit lower tech than we usually do. I don't usually do the studio side. I know, yes, there's my own face staring back at me. Right, I'm minimizing that now. Excellent. I have managed to basically go onto Facebook and go, I need people who know stuff, and basically bring them in to give an informed opinion, whereas mine's a bit more stupid. And one of the wonderful informed people that we know is a wonderful man in America called Brad Horton, and I'm hoping I'm saying his surname correctly there.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. He is a energy consultant based in the US. Do you want to just say a little bit about what you do?
Well, so far my business is pretty young, but so far I've helped business, residents, on a much smaller scale municipal, because I helped organize sort of a recycling program in my local village, if you call it. It'd be a village. It's not really a very big village, but you know, I've saved businesses which aren't that big, actually, sums like $600 a month on their electric bill. And I mean, we're talking, you know, very, very small office. So it kind of adds up. Yeah, pretty much that's what I go for.
And I suppose that's it. I suppose the larger companies would have. I remember I've worked in some largest companies in my time, and they had sort of an energy person. So you fulfill that role in companies that aren't at that point to have someone dedicated to it all the time. You come in and basically go, you're wasting all of this stuff. You need to do it this awesome way.
Right, right. And what my scheme so far, and I say scheme, but my spiel so far has been to kind of come in for sort of a lower fee that it seems affordable, not like a total waste of their time. And I reach for all the low-hanging fruit and the most affordable changes immediately, and I kind of give them a couple different game plans, like possibly the affordable plan, and then the, you know, what they can do maybe to go a little bit more in depth, and then if they really want to go all out, I can, you know, really kind of bling their business. So
I like the idea of eco bling, and I believe you drive a Volt as well, or is it an Ampere?
Yeah. It's a Volt, and in fact, since I'm kind of house sitting for a friend right now, I dropped him off at the airport. I actually have access to 2 Volts at the moment. So once I run one dead, I can go out in the other one.
So we've talked about this with about Michael Thwaite, who has the most electric cars of anyone I know. I think he's up to 4 actual electric cars, and then he's got his electric lawnmower as well. And I believe that makes him have the longest range of anyone, because what he just needs to do is just park one car at the range of another car, and he can kind of daisy chain himself down the coast.
There's actually an electric lawnmower here. It's called it's a Hustler brand, and it's called the Xeon, and it's like a 0-turn electric mower, and he uses it to mow his whole property.
Oh, that's amazing. I've got a massive garden, and at the moment I'm doing it with petrol. I have to drive my Leaf to the petrol station and then spend a ridiculous amount of money on petrol to bring it back so I can mow my garden, which is
same here, same situation.
Horrible situation. Because this was going to be a catch-up with the wonderful Nikki, and because she is somewhere probably being awesome as she usually is, I'm going to do this in the more traditional Transport Evolved way. So we'll look at the news, but I'm not going to be. Me and Nikki try to keep it sort of have 3 different segments and be very kind of the newsroom about it. If you've ever watched the newsroom, we have an A section, a B section, and C section. I'm going to be a bit more free and easy than that. I'm just going to go through the news in a much more relaxed way. My personal favorite piece of news from this week, which is what I'm going to go into first because it's my favorite, was Elon Musk, Tesla's CEO, has been awarded the Edison Achievement Award for basically all the stuff he's done with Tesla. And I really like it because I'm quite a geek, and I think Nikola Tesla was awesome. And now he's been given the Edison Award, him and Tesla never really got along. And I thought that was a wonderful piece of news. But it's very good for Tesla to see, I think, that he's being recognized, and Elon's being recognized for what he's doing. And he's been recognized. I mean, he's been Time Person of the Year for a while, but that's still going on. People are still seeing what he's doing as worthwhile. And I just wondered, do you have any views on that? Have you had a go in a Tesla yet? And what do you think?
I haven't participated in the conversation, but it's been really interesting to read other people's takes on it and the weird, just the weird analogies and things that they've come up with. But I have watched many documentaries and stuff on Nikola Tesla, and it's just, it's almost kind of like, who was it? Was it Van Gogh, who was also like a wonderful painter, but they all thought he was nuts, and he was never recognized till after he died. And I feel like poor Tesla was the same way, and it's just such a shame that people that influential don't know what it is they gave us. But
yeah, there was my favorite story, I think, about Tesla was he got someone to back his scheme for wireless power distribution, and they were halfway through building this big massive tower, which was essentially going to give people wireless power in their homes through saturating the air with massive amounts of radio waves. But it worked, or in theory it worked, and the person who was paying for it kind of came to him when they were about halfway through and went, okay, brilliant, so how do we stop, say household B can't afford their bills or can't pay their bills, how do we stop them having power but allow everyone else to have power? And Tesla apparently turned around and went, no, this is free power for everyone. And I just love this idea of this businessman going, what? No.
Yeah, if you were in America, you could probably get put down for that. No, but seriously,
yeah,
that's not going to work.
No, and I think that was kind of the downfall of Tesla, bless him, is he brought along a lot of the kind of European communist views along into the US, and met Edison, who was very business orientated, and that tete-a-tete didn't really work very well. But oh well, that was fun. I just thought I'd do that because that was a cool story this week. One other story that I really liked this week was in Europe, and I know there are companies in America looking at this, especially Tesla. They've been very open about looking at this. A 2-year project in Europe has started this week called Adaptive, which stands for the Automated Driving Applications and Technologies for Intelligent Vehicles. It's a 2-year scheme. It's got something like 35 million euros worth of funding to look at and create different types of self-driving technology. And self-driving technology is something that me and Nikki really are interested in, really want to help get out there. What are your views on self-driving technology? Do you have any issues with it?
I cannot wait. No, I have no issues with it. It would be very unfortunate to live in a world where occasionally I couldn't drive myself, just because it is entertaining, it's therapeutic, but at the same time, there's so many times that I just don't feel like dealing with it, and if I could just get in a car and be shuttled somewhere, it would be a wonderful luxury. I could read, I could do other tasks while in there. You wouldn't have the distracted driver issues that everybody seems to be all up in arms about right now. Plus, it would be more efficient, especially if they do the kind of thing that they're talking about where cars basically get within inches of each other. They're taking up less room on the motorway. The wind resistance isn't as much of an issue.
I think that's it. It's because I speak to people who, and I have met people, the lady in my local shop down the road when I was talking about automated driving, because I talk to random people. I'm not very British. I talk to random people, and I was talking about automated cars with her, and she hates the idea. She hates not being in control, which I find is such an odd point of view, because everything we've kind of moved towards in the automotive world has been about removing control from ourselves. I mean, some people in the UK really don't like automatic cars because they feel it takes away from their control. But that's not the case in America, or my understanding is you have more automatic cars than we do over here.
I know I read something about it recently, probably what you were talking about. I had noticed that it was an actual event or recognition, but or recognition. But yeah, there was like the Google cars and things like that. But I think there was a test highway built somewhere in probably California. But I'm not. I know it's not a big thing or anything. I've never seen one personally, so.
And I think we can see, and I think the technology is going to be very interesting. The way in which they develop it, we've already got to the point where there's that adaptive cruise control where you stick on your cruise control, but it doesn't matter if the car in front of you stops or slows down. Your car just adjusts to it. I believe that some manufacturers have cars now which kind of have a follow the leader mode where you kind of lock onto the car in front of you. So if they change lane, you change lane too, which is very extreme. I don't know if that's actually out on the roads yet, because that relies on other people around you being more aware of you, I think, than otherwise.
I had a 2010 Prius that had the adaptive cruise control, but that was about it. And it would also keep you in your lane. It would, as long as it detected some sort of sensation from the wheel every so often, it wouldn't disengage. But it will disengage if you just try to take your hands off the wheel. And even if you drifted over into the other lane, it would kind of nudge the wheel just a little bit to kind of send you back.
Wow. How did that take a lot of getting used to?
It did. There was a lot of times I just shut it off. Like, for one, you definitely had to signal to change the lane. Otherwise, the wheel would fight you and be like, no!
That's amazing. I like that idea. That stop. There are lots of drivers in the UK around here who do not indicate when they're changing. So I like the idea of their car fighting back.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're going to go, and I think that's Tesla's view, and a couple of the manufacturers have that same view of it's not completely self-driving. We're maybe not at the stage yet where you go onto a smartphone app and you dial up a car and it comes to your house and then drives you off in like a pod, which I think we will get to eventually because it's the kind of logical conclusion of all of this. But at the moment,
I think that with like Volt and hybrids and things of that sort, we've learned that people can't just make the switch. There's got to be something in the middle. So.
And the idea of you get onto a motorway and you flip a switch on the motorway and then your car just sits at cruise with the car in front of it. And I think Tesla's very keen to call it autopilot, which is, I suppose, a correct phrase. You just flip on the autopilot, but you can't in the same way that I guess if you're flying an airplane, not that I've ever flown an airplane, but I know we have some people, some viewers who are very much into flying. I imagine when you're on autopilot in a plane, you can't kind of just wander off, play a game of cards or something. You have to be in the loop somehow. You need to be approving what's going on and making sure the car's not doing, or the plane's not doing anything stupid.
I'm not. I would assume that there might be like a dead man switch, but then again, even if there wasn't even if there was one, I don't think that you would want the plane to disengage the autopilot if something even happened to the pilot. It's my understanding that a plane can land itself anyway if it has to.
So what are we paying these pilots for?
Well, I mean, because there's a lot more to it than that, and it's something you wouldn't want to risk unless you really had to. Like, I'm sure that they'd probably evacuate the entire runway, any terminals in the area, you know. But I think it could happen, and that's why I think that you may have some input in the car, but it would probably be just something like, please check your surroundings and confirm, or kind of like they make you do with the navigation systems, that kind of thing.
I like the idea of those disaster movies where the pilot collapses and then the co-pilot faints and then is there a pilot on board, and then someone goes, no, it's okay, we just flip the switch and then the plane lands itself. I quite like that, the whole subversion of that genre. But then something happens
to that, and then someone says, hey, once I flew a model airplane. There you go.
Oh, those model airplanes look absolutely insane.
I have several friends into them, and I like them.
I keep seeing videos online of people launching them and then just plummeting to the ground, and so scary.
Some of the expensive ones, and then you see them get destroyed, and it really hurts. But well, what I was also I didn't know how to segue into this, but I don't know that you saw. I didn't post anything privately on my private Facebook, but yesterday I went to a BMW i3 Drive event, so I actually got to drive the i3.
Oh, tell us, what did you think about it?
You know what? I was pretty skeptical going in. I thought, well, to me, the size, the characteristics of the car, the wheels, like the tires, I thought, for some reason I was thinking Mitsubishi i-MiEV or something like that. Honestly, the thing, despite its appearance, rode very similar to my Volt. I was
Okay.
really expecting the ride to be rougher, but it was actually quite nice. Until I talked to somebody else last night, I was kind of being skeptical on the price. I was thinking, well, this just doesn't feel very luxury German BMW. I've had a BMW before back in the day, and I thought, this is not the same, and why are we paying all this money? But then, it is the first car to have this carbon fiber frame
Yeah.
about it. Like, so much carbon fiber in that thing, and even the paint for carbon fiber, as I understand it, is ridiculously expensive. And so it's cool that they're trying something new like that, and it's so efficient. It is a really efficient car.
And their whole production is been ecoed up. So the factory that makes the carbon fiber panels and I believe that their main manufacturing plant where they used to be put together, one of them works on massive amounts of hydropower and one of them works on massive amounts of solar power. So the car, not only are the materials generally much better and lighter, but the construction of those materials is done in a much more open way, in a much more conservable way, I guess.
And there are YouTube videos that people can look up and see that process, I believe. Someone sent me the links to them last night.
Which is amazing, and it does show, well, hopefully that they're going to go forward. There was a story last week, and we did cover it last week, so I only just skip over it quickly. But one of the board members of BMW, I think it was, said that they're going to wait and see how sales progress before committing of the i5 and the i3 before looking at any more cars. But there's that issue of what's BMW's view and what's one person's view who happens to be in BMW. But that nicely goes into another story we've got, which is on people who run a bit hot and cold. There's a couple of stories on this. Ford could be accused of running a bit hot and cold on EVs. There was a big noise about the Ford Focus EV before it came out, and then it kind of became a compliance car. And we seem to have this toing and froing with Ford about them going, well, we're not really sure about electric cars, and then they moan that no one's really buying the Ford Focus EV. And the latest thing they've done is they are now offering in certain areas, in certain states, a $6,000 cash incentive and a 0% financing package to try and get people to buy this car. My view on this is I have to wonder if that is the issue. Is the price of the Ford Focus the issue, or is it the fact that it's very hard to buy if you don't happen to live in the right states?
Oh, it's got to be both, because I know someone locally here that was waiting on one, and they both saw that the price dropped. I thought it was like $3,000 or $4,000 just a cut to the price, but I could be wrong. It might be an incentive, and it might be more than that. Anyway, they also haven't been able to get one here. And there was this thing at the auto show, actually. Well, I think it's just Ford in general right now. Will actually pay you. They'll give you a $50 MasterCard or something for scheduling a test drive. And so a lot of people were signing up for this that we knew of, but they all wanted to drive either the C-Max Energy, the plug-in, or the Focus EV. Well, there's no Focus EVs in the area, but apparently those who inquired, the dealers said that they're scheduled to be getting them in within a month to a couple months, maybe March or something like that. By March, they'll have them, and the lower price. And so I'm going to do a test drive kind of around there. I'm going to do it myself. So.
Excellent. And I've not driven one. Nikki has driven one, and she says it's a nice, competent EV. It's a good conversion, and unfortunately it is a conversion, so it loses some space for storage of the batteries. But if it is good, and what I want is for it to sell, so that Ford going forward look at it and go, let's do more cars like this. The next Ford Focus, there have been rumors and utterings and a few little statements that it's going to come as a plug-in hybrid. So maybe Ford is just taking this more relaxed approach, and like you said earlier, taking things in steps rather than going full out like people like Nissan and BMW have done to just give you a battery electric car.
Well, as a business, they've had plenty of income and capital and everything, and they haven't had to, in the past years, they haven't had to seek out assistance or anything like that. I know that people like to throw that out there, but the other thing is, if I remember right, in the Super Bowl, they bought like a two 2 ad spots or something like that for the for all the plug-in models and everything, and that is not cheap. And in fact, when I ran the numbers, the amount of plug-in cars they'd actually have to physically sell to make that commercial probably more than they sell. But that just goes to show you that they do have the money in the company to kind of spin on the ads, so they obviously do believe in it. And my biggest worry, I think that Focus EV will get out there. My biggest worry at this moment is the Spark EV, because recently there was some article published where Chevy executives or somebody was referring to the Volt just as a niche product, and they were just going to keep it that way. And I thought, oh, well, if the Volt's going to be a niche product, how the heck are we ever going to see the Spark EV?
And then what's interesting about this is there's a disparaging the difference between US cars and European cars. In Europe, we tend to like smaller cars. The Chevy Spark, there are a couple on my street, and there are a couple around my area. It's the right size for definitely in the UK, and I believe in some European markets, in some mainland European markets, they like those smaller cars, whereas in the US you like those larger ones, and it's definitely an issue I'm seeing from the US manufacturers, and even to Tesla, that the cars that they are producing, and I'm worried that the next Tesla, the Model E, will still have the same problem, is that they are American-sized cars. They are not designed for a European audience, and we that statement about, like you say, about the Spark EV, it would probably sell more in European markets than it would in the US market, but does that mean it will ever get made or not?
Well, this is a side note, but it only recently started to trickle into the United States that the longest time, if you've got a small car like something like a Spark size, it was so plain, had no features, wasn't feature rich at all, even safety features, and it's just because the only people buying those cars are the people forced to buy them. They didn't really want them. They were just super cheap. But Europe has shown us, no, people want the small car because they want the small car. They want the efficiency, the maneuverability. And then they started becoming feature-rich. You had navigation systems and tiny little cars and stuff. And that had been unheard of here until then. And it's my understanding that the EV Focus comes pretty feature-rich, even standard, which is one of the selling points.
Yeah, and I think that's why part of the price of the Focus EV is quite high, because of the amount of tech they put in it. And in the same with the Leaf. When the Leaf came out, it was very feature rich. And in the UK, we didn't get, and in Europe, we didn't get different levels of spec, unlike in the US. When it first came out, we do now, but when it first came out in the UK, there was one option, which was to have the spoiler, the solar spoiler, or a normal spoiler. Those were the only options we had. So everything else, it came with backup camera and sat-nav and CHAdeMO ports, and everything was stuffed in there, which is quite interesting. I'm not quite sure why they made that decision, but they obviously did. They obviously went, Europe, they'll just take all the gadgets.
Yeah, I know. Not to get too conversational here, but one of the things that I recently did was we volunteered at the St. Louis Auto Show, and as Chevy Volt, owner, testifiers, whatever you want to call it, they just gave us free tickets. That was about it. It was cool. What GM and other all car companies need to do is they need to hire people to just go and stand around quietly and listen to what people are saying at the auto show. Their marketing department would benefit, exponentially, because we had so many people. The Sparks were next to the Volt, and they came over, and just about, I'd seriously say 3 out of every 5 people walked up to the car. Oh yeah, that's a good price for a little electric car, and they were gas cars. We've never even seen the Spark EV in this neck of the woods, and everybody just assumes when they hear the word Spark, they think electric. They would even pop the hood and still say, wow, that's a pretty neat electric motor. I never saw one like that before. I'm sitting there, I'm like, really, people?
It is odd that they are sitting on this brand that is perfectly ripe to make an EV, and I hope they do. And there have been rumblings that they may look into it, and I don't know how far along that is. It's not one that I've been personally keeping track of, but I'm hoping that they will. They're bound to eventually. They have to. Let's move on to another story, another manufacturer that's a bit hot and cold on electric cars. Audi, the Audi R8 e-tron. Is that the one I mean? It is the R8 e-tron. Yes, yes, it is. Sorry, I get confused with all of my different letterings that different people use. Is back on. Nikki reported on that about a month and a half ago that they are now going to bring it into production now that Audi believe that battery technology and manufacturing has improved to the point where it makes it a worthwhile car again. Interestingly, from autocar.co.uk, they've reported that senior Audi sources have approved a crossover, an SUV, the Q8 e-tron SUV, which Audi are claiming will have a practical range of about 370 miles. It will be four-wheel drive and pretty much is a direct competitor to Tesla's upcoming Model X. Is Audi a brand that is seen in the US? Again, this is probably my ignorance of the US. Is it seen as a brand, and is it seen on par that Tesla would be seen?
Now, here's the thing. I'm from a small neck of the woods, but I got to say, when I do travel to the cities, Audi does have a pretty big presence. And I honestly attribute that lately to a lot of the ad campaigns that seem to start. Honestly, last year during the Super Bowl, there was these commercials about, oh, my father had a Mercedes, and then they would like cut scene to some guy in an Audi. Like it was like breaking away from your normal to get into an Audi. And ever since then, I have to say, I've seen a whole lot of newer Audis on the road, and even a few in my area. They are attractive to people right now for some reason.
Because the R8 e-tron, or a pre-production version of it, was in the latest Iron Man. It was the car that Tony Stark was driving. So they seem to be going for those kind of that market. They're putting themselves out there. It's quite interesting. A bit more about this car. It's said to be based on the next generation Q7 SUV with some design changes to make it sleeker. I presume make it sleeker is a kind of marketing term or a soft term to mean make it slightly more aerodynamic, make it fit an EV drivetrain. What's interesting is they think it will come to production in about 2017, which is when I think a lot of this is basically Audi hoping that battery technology is going to make a huge leap forward between now and then. So they will be able to use much more energy-dense batteries to power this car. What I find very interesting, though, is if this is going to be a competitor with the Model X deliveries are supposedly meant to be starting this year. So they're going to be 3 or 4 years behind Tesla with a very similar car, and I don't know whether that's a concern to them or not.
You know, in the industry, all the cool cars, all the cars that people really seem to want, a lot of times, they trickle down from like these amazing sports cars and supercars and things like that. And I think that's a big part of why battery electrics and things aren't really such a huge deal. They don't get people's blood flowing because they didn't trickle down from the top. They trickled up from the bottom. Yeah. And that's one of the things where I think Toyota, and this is my wild out there theory, they kind of backed away. They've shied off. They've been kind of, a little bit stagnant. They've done the RAV4 EV on a very small basis. But I truly think that kind of like with the EV1, I think they watched that and they kind of waited for that little fire to fizzle out, just the last of it, and then they just came in and took it, took the market. And I have a feeling that Toyota made this strategic decision right now. Whoa, let's back up. All these major car companies are getting on it. Let them build the market, and then we're just going to walk in and make bank. And I think that at some point we're going to see that happen. I think after these cool cars come out.
I can see that. I can see, and because a lot of technology for cars comes from racing, Formula One and various racing. It trickles down that way, and the desirability of cars, I think you're right, trickles down from cars like Tesla. And me and Nikki talked about this in we did a video after we'd handed back the Tesla Model S, which we had on loan for 3 days, and then we had to make the journey back from London in a Leaf. So after driving there in a Tesla, we then had to drive back in a Leaf about 125 miles, and the difference between the two. But we did this short video, which is on our YouTube channel, which you should go and subscribe to if you're not already, viewers. You should.
I think that might be, but okay.
Yes, and we were talking about how Tesla is always going to be or we hope Tesla is going to be the aspirational EV brand. It's not ever going to be, and I don't think even their affordable car is going to be affordable to everybody. I think they've set themselves up as the aspirational brand. It's the brand that you will buy if you win the lottery, or if you've done very well in life, or you've got a successful business. It's that brand you want to look to, and that's a very good niche for them to hold. And then the Nissans and the Toyotas and the other manufacturers who I can't think of, Renault and Volkswagen, can come in and they can do the, I don't want to say budget because that's the wrong word, but the average EVs, the EVs that anyone can afford. That's their market, and we're already seeing sort of a tiered car market in EVs, which I think is very, very interesting.
I would agree, but I also say if there is someone to change that whole system, it might be Elon Musk.
Yeah, that's yes. That is always the thing with Elon is that he could just go, no, sod it, we're going to do a 50 quid car, and somehow he'll make it happen.
Yeah.
NASA, this is a good story for you, I think. I don't know if you saw this report earlier on this week. NASA did an internal study. They basically offered people who drive a plug-in vehicle, a plug-in battery electric vehicle at the Kennedy Space Center. They said, yes, you can charge at work. We will put in the charging for you. You can use it. It will be completely free. In exchange, every day you have to fill in this massive spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet took account of traffic conditions, average energy efficiency as you drove there, what the traffic was like, and they basically sucked in all this data. And what makes it interesting is these were official figures. They were figures that were coming from the car. They were figures that were coming from the people, very, very clever people, I presume, if they work at NASA, rather than a lot of studies which make assumptions on the car will be this efficient in traffic because this is what this test cycle said and blah, blah, blah. So they actually used official figures and found that electric cars are, for in terms of carbon footprint, 10 times better than it had originally, or they had originally predicted. And even when you factored in where that electricity came from and the carbon footprint of that, they're still far, far better than what people thought. I thought this was a very interesting story, and this study it's quite a small set. It was only done over 10 people over three months, but was it 3 months? 10 people over a relatively short period of time. But I don't know. For me, it's a real world study rather than these studies that have come out which have just used assumptions. And I thought it was quite a nice story.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they did that, because where else are you going to find maybe possible rocket scientists to fill out large spreadsheets on electric car data?
Well, yes, and those kind of people, I presume, would have been quite happy to do it, and would have known exactly what NASA wanted.
Exactly. That's what I thought whenever you were saying that. I thought, well, I'm sure they didn't mind.
And for free charging, I mean, it's always good. I really like that story. Like I said, I think it was really good. And there were some nice quotes. The programs for this was from one of their. I can't remember what he did. He was from the sustainability office, and he said the program's first 3 months cost only $148, and they eliminated over 15,000 pounds of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Over a whole year, we saved over 60,000 pounds, and that's just with 10 drivers. It's actually amazing. These are proper nice figures, I think, and it should be a study I think we point to. Like I said, it's quite a small data set, but hopefully it will be one that they keep working on and we get more and more information from.
There's so many little things that people like us don't realize makes a big difference, such as, and I say people like us, I say all us little people, because I mean, there's things that I don't do that they do here in this household that I just find amazing. They definitely do composting. Everything they get that they can get that's compostable, they do, including, including such as dryer sheets that are compostable, things like that. And it's just things that most people would never think about. But think about after your lifetime is over, how much of that would be in the landfill.
Yeah.
So.
This is all they've done it as part of I think it was, I don't know if it was President Obama who set it, but there was a presidential edict that all governmental departments had to reduce their carbon emissions by so much, and this is part of how NASA is approaching how they've done that, which I thought was awesome. Big news this week, the Kia Soul EV was officially unveiled. It was still not the... for official unveiling, not the most information we could have been given in the world, I think it's fair to say. It's expected to have an 80 to 100 mile real-world range, which is probably puts it slightly higher than things like the Leaf and the i3 and iMeves, those kind of cars. But again, this is what the manufacturer is saying, so if that's based on manufacturer tests, then quite possibly it might come back down into the range that we're used to seeing. It's estimated to take around 12 seconds to go from 0 to 60, not the best speed in the world, and a top speed of around 90 miles an hour. And it's all these arounds that are bugging me slightly.
I got a bunch of those yesterday at the i3 event. They said that on a really nice day, you could go 130 miles in the i3. So,
wow,
I don't know.
That would be impressive. I've not heard of anyone quite achieving that in the i3, but if there has, it's good. The Kia Soul, it seems to owe a lot to the Nissan Leaf. It's pretty much set up exactly the same as the Nissan Leaf with a slightly larger battery. It's 27 kilowatt-hour battery pack. It's located under the floor, so that's great. It's got a J1772 connector for level 2 charging. It can also do level 1 charging for the Americans out there who know what that means. The CHAdeMO quick charge, so it can recharge from 0 to 80% in about half an hour, 20 minutes. And it can be upgraded to a 6.6 kilowatt charger. What I find quite interesting about this car is some of the stuff they've done on the inside. The material on the inside, if you just buy the car, is made with 10% bio-based organic carbon materials, which is quite an interesting phrase, including bio-based plastic, biofabric, and thermoplastic elastomer fabric. I don't know what those are, I have to admit, but you can upgrade that to leather if you're more of a leather person. The heating system can be upgraded to make it a nice heat pump system, which uses less power. However, it's got this cool little feature. I don't know how well it'll work because I don't know how the hot air knows, but apparently you can switch the heating on to driver only, and the car will then switch off the panels that don't blow that blow anywhere else but the driver, which is quite cool. But it does strike me a bit of in the olden days when restaurants used to have smoking and no smoking areas. How did the smoke know not to go any further?
It's like a car with dual climate control. They just have maybe 2 different little heater cores, one for each side. So.
But eventually they are trying to heat the whole car because the cars are
right. But it can help kind of just create a little zone if it's not really cold outside but you just want to warm your little area up a little bit. It can kind of work. I don't know. in most cars it's a gas car and they're really just fighting each other. Like if you're in a Cadillac, this side might be blowing cold, this one's hot.
But there's the issue we had, and one of the things that we quite liked in the Model S, because we can't do this in the Leaf when me and Nikki or in the Volt when we go out driving, is I like being cold, Nikki likes being warm. In the Model S, I was able to have cold air blowing on me, and she was able to have warm air blowing on her. And I don't know. I wonder if you leave it on for a long time, whether some sort of mini storm-based system will develop in between us.
Tornado in the middle of it.
Possibly. It would be quite awesome. It reminds me of, I think it was Microsoft's data center. They used this new passive cooling system in their big one. I can't remember where it was, but they walked in there one day, first time this technology had been used, and found it raining on the inside of this building, and something had gone wrong, and the conditions were right for clouds to form inside this building and then rain on them.
That is amazing.
Good news, I've heard Nikki might be about to join us. So if we have a ping and someone else appears up, it might be Nikki coming in. The final story I was going to move on to, so then we can have a chat with Nikki. In the UK this week, one of our we have in our power companies we have the big 6, and they're people like British Gas and some other those other big energy companies that can supply both electricity and gas to your house. We have a couple of more eco energy suppliers. There's one called Green Energy, which was set up to provide 100% green energy, and then there's one called Ecotricity, who are very wind power based, and they reinvest all of their money into wind turbines. They make big, massive wind turbines. They've recently gone, as in about 6 months ago, to 100% green, but before that they had a bit of a brown tariff. But on top of their 100% green tariff you can get now, that sounds like Nikki might be joining us, they have now offered a EV car tariff. So you can power your car with 100% green electricity, and if you can prove that you've got an electric car, they will reduce your unit cost per kilowatt by an amount that's equal to around about 1,003 miles of driving a year. So they are selling this as change to this tariff and you get 1,000 miles of driving for free. And I thought that was quite a nice little incentive to get people to move over to EVs. There appears to be a Nikki waving at us. Hello, Nikki.
Hello. Hello. I can't see or hear anything, and I don't know if this is working. So you'll have to tell me if it is, if you can hear me or anything. And I've got noise-cancelling headphones on, so I'm probably shouting.
It's definitely working. I am here. I'm not just talking to myself. I have got the wonderful Brad Horton with me.
Hello.
Yo,
Hi.
Brad.
Hi.
You've had like tons of snow, and you've been driving a BMW i3 this week.
Yeah, it slipped a little bit in the parking lots, going up hills and stuff.
I guess you.
Ooh.
Oh.
You've probably already talked to everybody about this.
Nikki appears to have turned into a Dalek while we were speaking to her.
Unattended vehicles in front of the terminal. Who's ticketed?
We shall try and bring you. There she
that.
is. She is back. Yes, we did. We've been chatting about the i3 earlier. We've kind of recapped the news. I don't know if people can hear me now.
I can hear you.
Excellent.
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
It's good. How has your trip to the US been, Nikki? We should have a quick catch up about that. We are live on air, just to warn you, in case you give away any state secrets or anything like that.
Yes. I'm still here.
It sounds quite musical. Whatever Nick is saying, it's coming across as quite musical. No, I'm afraid we can't hear you, Nikki, at all. We can see your face is moving at about half a frame a second, but unfortunately we can't hear anything you're saying.
She wandered too far from the router.
She's probably hooked into some Starbucks Wi-Fi on the other side of the airport. And Nikki has been in the US this week. She's been, I think we said earlier, a conference with the Department for Energy and Department for Transport conference, talking about how America can make that final push, and in fact everyone can make that final push from 80% reduction in carbon emissions to 100% reduction. And she says, oh, I'm getting messages from her. She says it was very good fun, and she's had basically an incredibly busy week, and I can't imagine how tired she must be right now.
Very, I assume.
We seem to be getting better frame rate from her. So can we hear her at all?
Yeah, you're moving a little.
Oh, can I talk now?
You can.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Is she tricking us?
It was really, really good.
No. Oh, it paused on that. That's great.
It was really, really good because I got to meet Michael.
I've got a feeling she's on like a 4-minute delay from the rest of us. She got to meet Michael, the lovely Michael Thwaite, who comes on and helps us with our Transport Evolved. He's the hidden third member of Transport Evolved. She got to meet him, which was absolutely brilliant. She's made another video. She did a video earlier on this week explaining a little bit of what she's been up to, which is on our YouTube channel. You should all be subscribed. you should. And she's made another one which isn't up yet and will be up soon. She also got to meet Tom Milogny, which is absolutely brilliant. Did you get any of his amazing food? Because I really want to try some of his amazing food.
And she also eat at Nana's.
Oh, we shall wait the 2 minutes it takes a signal to get to her for that.
No, Josh Pennington. I don't know if you know Joshua Pennington or Mandy Pennington, but they post sometimes. But we even talked about trying to do a road trip across the country.
Restaurant.
Well, no, to see Nikki.
Well, really? Oh, that would have been amazing. She did get to meet up with she didn't get to have any of the wonderful food. She also got to meet, along with Tom Milogny, she got to meet Vlad, who is a wonderful fan of the show, and I think she's just had a wonderful time, and we shall have to do a proper roundup video for her. I'm gonna bring the show to a close now, but I thought that just to go back to the story, I thought the Ecotricity story was quite a nice one. I do understand that the 1,000 free miles of driving is just because you're getting a reduced tariff, but I find it's quite a nice way of expressing it. And I know people who have got solar panels and electric cars, and they express their solar panels output not in money saved, but in miles driven, because it's a much more direct figure to give people. I've got solar panels, and it gives me 300 miles of free driving a month, and I think it's a very good way of doing that. So I thought that was a good story to end on. I don't know if you've been able to hear. You might be able to hear a hum in the background at the moment. If you can, that's my new video editing machine, which is sat just over there. I can't show you because I can't turn my monitor around, but my video editing machine is up and running, and I'm currently transferring 3/4 of a terabytes worth of data over to it, which I can then start working on the videos. So we did the sort of shout out last week to say we needed some help to get this machine, because this machine that I'm using now, very old, was never designed for video editing and was really struggling, and it was really becoming an issue because we wanted to bring you more wonderful content. So we asked for help. We'd already bought 3 or 4 or 5 of the components ourselves, and we just needed help finishing the machine. And we did that on Sunday night. I went to bed, woke up Monday morning, and found out that all the components that remaining had been bought and were being delivered to my house. So thank you so much to all the wonderful people who helped us and donated to that and helped us keep going. I now have this massive backlog of videos to work through, which I'm going to enjoy doing amazingly. And like I said, you can hear the machine going, probably because it was designed for cost, as in to keep the cost low and to have as much power. We didn't look at sound because it doesn't matter to me to have this machine going there. And you're all wonderful, so thank you very much. And thank you very much to Brad for coming on to the show, especially because I did ask you pretty much a minute before I was meant to be going live.
Oh, no problem. Not a problem at all. And don't worry about the sound, because at least on my end, I can't hear a thing, so it's all good.
This is my lovely microphone. I do love my microphones.
I see the pop filter and everything. It's nice.
It's, yeah, not even a homemade one, although everyone told me, just use tights. And so I don't own tights. Where can people find out about you online?
Well, I have a website called whatdrivesbrad.com. I might be changing that at some point. I'm not sure. I haven't updated in a long time because I kind of ran into a software issue. But, you know, I'm mostly on Facebook. I mostly post there. I just kind of like the social aspect of it. So there we go. Find him on Facebook and see if he accepts the flood of invitations. Nikki has disappeared. I think her connection finally dropped out. Thank you. Thank you to all the lovely people who've helped Nikki. I know she had a problem with her first hotel that she stayed in this week, and a wonderful Transport Evolved viewers gave her recommendations on where she could go and where she should stay, and all the people who've met up with her and all the people who've helped us, you are all absolutely wonderful. I'm going to disappear now. Thank you for watching this slightly unorthodox show. Next week, back to your regularly scheduled programming where Nikki will be in control of everything, and it won't be quite as scatterbrained. Thank you very much. See you all next time. Don't forget to plug in. Bye!